Where I born in Egypt, Alexandria, and I lived there for about 25 years. I have a degree in agriculture science, specializing in poultry. Then I decided to migrate to Australia. So I migrated in the year 1988. I moved to Melbourne. I got married in the second year of my arrival, married from Australian lady. Her parents are Egyptian like me. And then after living 12 years in Melbourne, I've been ordained to serve in the church here in St. Mark, Auckland, New Zealand. So I've been a parish priest of St. Mark for 23 years. When I came here, there was no Coptic church in Auckland. So we started, my aim was to establish a church here in Auckland, and thank God, through his guidance and with the help of all the community here in Auckland and the wonderful congregation, we were able to purchase a factory, and then we started to convert it to become the first Coptic church from the year 2001. It's long history until we reach now to have a beautiful church with beautiful iconostasis that's been just installed 2019 with beautiful icon come from Egypt. All this wooden work is coming from Egypt. If we look in the history of the church, so from the early time of the church, we all used to be one. There is no different. There is nothing called Orthodox or Catholic or Protestant. All Christian used to be one. There were 5 seats around the world, you know, just from administration point of view. The seat of Alexandria, for example, Constantinople, Jerusalem, Rome, and Antioch. So whenever any heresy arises in the church, so they send bishops from all these 5 seats, they gather to start to discuss the opinion about the heresy that arise. Then they reach to an agreement. So all of us, we used to be one up to the year 451 AD. Where a council there, some people agreed, some people disagreed. It's called the Council of Chalcedon or Chalcedon. That's what divided the church to Eastern and Western. We part of the Eastern church. We refuse that council. We're not agreeing with what happened in that council. So as a result of that, from here come the Orthodox church, like for example, Coptic Orthodox. The word Coptic mean Egyptian. Nothing good to do with religion. So Coptic Orthodox mean Egyptian Orthodox. What is Orthodox? The faith that we've been received from the early church, from the time of the apostle, from the council that is being agreed about, like Nicene Council, Constantinople Council, and the Ephesian Council. We did not change, and that's why we are Orthodox, mean straight. From the Western side, from the year 451, came the Catholic and all the Anglican, later on Protestant in the later years. The text that we use in the Bible is the New King James Version. But as long as the translation is good, sometimes I refer to NIV. So sometimes you find the translation there in some verses is really clear. So between that and that, it's acceptable. Any kind of translation that it doesn't have a lot of change, big change about the meaning and the theology, we accept. But that's what we use most of the time. In our reading in the church, New King James Version. Oh, okay. Yep. As you know, like we are Coptic Orthodox, and the Coptic language is actually a mixture of Greek letters and ancient hieroglyphic language. So there's 25 letters from Greek, and there is 7 from ancient hieroglyphic language. We use the sound from ancient hieroglyphic, which is not present in Greek, like, for example, Shai, Chai, Hori, stuff like that. So when Islam entered to Egypt in the 7th century, they prevented us from using the Coptic language. We've been forced to use Arabic language. So started, you know, that language to turn from daily use every day as good morning and good night, and you know, you use it all the day, to become just used in the prayer of the church. So we're still keeping the language here in the church, but unfortunately, we don't know everything about how to use it in a daily basis. So for example, here in New Zealand, we have part of the liturgy we just pray in Coptic, because the tune of the Coptic language, for me as a priest and for many of my congregation, just give us that feeling of the early church. So beautiful language, and we feel the spirit present in it. Definitely we understand what we say, most of the words, but sometimes, you know, we're not able to use it as a conversation with the congregation, stuff like that. But we're still using it. When we look at the icon in our Coptic Orthodox Church, we're not looking at a painting, but we actually, whenever we look at any icon, we read the icon. So everything we're gonna find telling the story of the saint or martyr that we hang in our wall around the church, or iconostasis. The word iconostasis, by the way, is a Greek word which means the carrier of icons. So whenever we put icon here, there is an order for these icons, especially for the iconostasis behind me. So any Coptic Orthodox church has to comply with this order. Around the church, you can put any icons of saints or martyrs, but we try always to get varieties of female saints or martyrs and male saints and martyrs around the church. Varieties of young and children, you know, who offer their life to Christ, stuff like that. So we try to have varieties. But behind me, there is an order. And every color in the icon signifies something very important, either purity or the blood of Christ, martyrdom, stuff like that. Anything in the icon, we read. So we put most of the details about the story and biography of the saint by looking at the icon, and they're always looking at us as a symbol of, guys, here we are. We lived like you in the world, and now we are in paradise. It's your turn now to follow up our footsteps. As we lived like you, you always need to be light of the world, as we were light of the world. So that is a beautiful way of icons in our church. We cannot have any Coptic church without amazing icons surrounding us. We took most of the music, by the way, and the tune of the wonderful prayer and hymns in our church coming from the Pharaonic period. So a lot of stuff like we have, it used to be used in mourning in the deaths of pharaohs or stuff like that. So we've been influenced by this ancient civilization of Egypt. So you're gonna find a lot of stuff that maybe been used in this kind of funeral ritual. Who kept it, you know, in the church, but just modify the word and stuff like that. A lot of stuff we can have about 15 minutes in one hymn during Holy Week, for example, in Good Friday or stuff like that. Very long tune. And you could say, many, many times, you know, like to adjust the tune. So beautiful. In our Coptic Orthodox Church, we are the church, I believe, that fasting most of the year. And we fast about 230 years, sorry, 230 days per year. So you can just imagine about 2/3 of the year we have fasting. And the idea about fasting is a commandment from the Lord himself. So the Lord, he told us that fasting and prayer will cast out demon. And definitely, you know that the Lord Jesus Christ himself, he fasted for 40 days. And through that fasting, he was able to conquer devil. So we look at fasting as the very important practice that we do. So the idea about fasting is to try to control the body. Because as you know, that every one of us need to eat and drink. Since we're born, you're gonna find the baby cry to eat, or you know, to have milk or whatever. So when we control that tummy, because in the book of Psalm, it's been mentioned that their tummies are their God. So if I control that God, what does my tummy want, what does my mouth want? If we say you're gonna be abstained from food and drink to a certain time of the day, and then you'll be able to conquer the desire of the body, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. So if I'm able to control this, I will be able to say no to sin. If in any kind of temptation here or there, I'll be able to tell my eyes, don't look, to tell my ears, don't listen, to tell my tongue, don't talk. And there is a wonderful saint in our church. Her name is Mother Sarah. She said something very nice. She said that a mouth that you prevented from drinking water would never ask for wine. And a tummy that you prevented from eating bread, it would never ask for a piece of meat. So kind of when you fast, the true fasting is you abstain totally from food and drink to a certain time of the day according to your spiritual level, how old you are, how healthy you are. So that's what we normally do. We normally fast from midnight up to at least 12 midday the day after. So you can stay till 12 midday, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., according to all the factors that I just mentioned. And also before communion in any liturgy, we also need to be fasting, no food or drink from midnight, the night before the liturgy, until you have communion. Normally, the liturgy starts from 8 to 10 p.m., 9 to 11, something like that. So whoever comes to communion has to be fasting totally during that period. Until you have communion, then you can eat and drink afterwards.